What is going on, guys? Thank you so very much for joining me right here for AEW on Off the Script. This is your Dynamite review for October 9th, 2019. And I don't want to sit here and give AEW a winning streak just yet. Oh, no, no, no. We're not going to be doing that, man. You see, a winning streak is more than two. Week 1 was a success. Week 2 was an even greater success. I thought tonight blew away Week 1. Week 1 and Week 2 were a success. Now, if we go into Week 3 and they produce the same as Week 2 and Week 1, then that's called a winning streak, folks. That's called consistency. Now, I know what I want out of my wrestling show. I know what you guys want out of your wrestling show. As long as it's not named Monday Night Raw, I think we're all good. But we want consistency with our wrestling show. We haven't had consistency in a very long time outside of NXT. AEW has been consistent in Weeks 1 and Weeks 2, where Monday Night Raw has been consistently god-awful for God knows how long. And you could just watch the recent programs to understand that level of consistently bad. But AEW has given us consistent 2 weeks. A consistent 2 weeks right here on TNT. If they do the same thing next week, then I will label them as starting off on a winning streak, which I kind of had a good feeling they were going to do anyway. I love it, man. I ended last week's review saying that I was excited at the end of that first week for Week 2 already. And they're leaving you feeling the same way in Week 2 for Week 3. You can't get any better than that. There really isn't anything for me to complain about AEW. Now, I'm going to nitpick because that's what I do, and there are a few things that I think they corrected themselves on. There's a few things that I watched tonight that I really didn't like, but we're going to go over it all right here on the podcast. But in the end, AEW delivered what I thought was an excellent Week 2 and much better than Week 1. And I still have 2 hours of wrestling to watch after I get this uploaded for you guys because I have to watch NXT from Full Sail University. This show could not, and I mean this wholeheartedly, this show could not have started off any better than it did. This tournament could not have started off any better than it is. I am proud of what Mark Quinn and Isaiah Cassidy did tonight. I am proud of Matt and Nick Jackson for what they did for Private Party. And I love the fact that House of Glory got some rub on AEW Dynamite. Congratulations to everybody. And I got news on House of Glory that I'm going to be talking about here tonight as well. That match was a thing of beauty. We're going to go over that match. And the tag team tournament, again, is one of the biggest reasons why I'm excited for Weeks 3, 4, and 5. It's going to be awesome. Tag team wrestling actually took over this show. There were 3 tag team matches on this show. Outside of Private Party and the Young Bucks, we got a ladies tag team match. And we got a main event tag team match with Dustin Rhodes and Adam Hangman Paige against Sammy Guevara and Chris Jericho. And we now have a new name for Chris Jericho's stable. They are called the IC. Not the OC, the IC, standing for Inner Circle. I love it, man. We're going to go over everything on AEW Dynamite. What a great show. A 2-hour show that flew by. It was awesome. I'm excited for Week 3, and I'm sure you guys are. Thank you guys so very much for joining me here on the podcast. If you missed anything that I uploaded on the channel so far this week, I want you guys to check the description down below. Everything you need will be right there. Off the Script. Hell in a Cell. I know you want to forget it. I know you want to forget about the ending. I'm sure there are people that are still mad about the ending. In fact, I hope people are still mad and dumped WWE this week to check out AEW, giving AEW that higher rating than a 1.4 they did last week. One could dream. I would love to see the steam coming out of Vince McMahon. I'd love to feel Vince McMahon's anger all the way from Stamford, Connecticut, man. I would love to see it. So if you guys missed that Hell in a Cell review, if you missed my Monday Night Raw review, if you guys missed my Off the Script Elites on Tuesday, the only place you need for AEW news and rumors, everything you need is linked down below in the description of this very video. This has been a great first week of October, man. I've been waiting for a week like this. AEW has given the channel a beautiful resurgence Revenue's up. Views are up. Watch time is up. Subscribers are up. I'm thankful for everybody that has joined me. I'm thankful for all the new eyes and ears right here on Off the Script. We are doing things, and we're going to continue doing things 7 days a week right here on the channel. Thank you guys so very much for all of your support. Again, go and check out all those other videos. Follow me on social media. I live tweet during Raw, unfortunately. I have to watch that show for 3 hours to be here and work. We got Wednesday with NXT. I don't live tweet during NXT because I watch it after Dynamite. But I do live tweet during Dynamite. We'll be live tweeting during Friday on SmackDown because the draft is starting. And then whatever shows on Saturday and Sunday there are with AEW, NXT, WWE, any special events and pay-per-views. Live tweeting during it all, man. At JD from NY206. Please make sure you guys follow me on Twitter. And the same deal on Instagram. Make sure you guys are following me on Instagram as well. I'd love to get towards 10,000 followers on the IG at JD from NY206. Again, please hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on that bell for all notifications. If you guys want to support the podcast via Patreon, you guys can certainly do that as well. Patreon.com/JD from NY206. And tonight's podcast, as always, is brought to you by Harry's. Harry's.com/script. Make sure you guys go out there and use our unique link. Get yourself a $13 value trial set. And it's the best shave. Believe me, it's the best shave of your life. When you use our unique link, what you guys are going to get is the following. You're going to get a razor handle with an easy grip, a 5-blade razor with a lubricating strip and a trimmer blade, rich lathering shave gel with aloe to keep your face hydrated, and a travel blade cover to keep your razor dry and easy on the go. Guys, it's simple. You're starting to watch better wrestling on Wednesday nights? Why don't you guys start shaving better? And there's no better way to do it than Harry's. Harry's.com/script. Dynamite started off with an explosion, folks. I kid you not. That's a shitty analogy, but it really did. There was no better way to start this thing than the tag team title tournament, and that's exactly what they did. And there was no better match to start this show within the tournament than Private Party and the Young Bucks. This was absolutely fantastic. Praise be to God that I got to call these guys inside House of Glory. Never in my wildest dreams, when I started the year, I did not ever realize that it would even become a reality, that I called a Young Bucks match in 2019. Not only a Young Bucks match, but the last match for Private Party before they hit it big in AEW. And it was at High Intensity 8, and it was inside the NYC Arena for House of Glory Wrestling. And I remember when I sat there with the Solid Monster, we knew that magic was being made that night. The crowd was like 3,000 people deep, and they ate everything up. When I first heard the announcement of Private Party being signed to AEW, I was not shocked. I was surprised when I was told, in the moment that I was told, because one of the owners, Brian XL, came up to me, and I was calling a match, I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, it was a match with LAX, and they were going up against and defending the House of Glory Tag Team Championships when they were champions at that time against Pentagon Jr. and Sami Callihan. I know, a fucking mismatch of epic proportions, but it was probably one of the best matches, probably the match of the entire year inside a House of Glory ring. He came up to me and told me that Private Party just got signed to AEW. They just got signed. They signed the contract tonight. I'm like, what the fuck's going on here? This is crazy. At that moment, when he told me that, I was smiling from ear to ear. And I knew something was on the verge of happening. And I knew great things were about to happen from that announcement. A couple months later, when we got done with our show in, I believe it was June. Now, I think that show was Temperature Rising. I was leaving the arena, and Brian stopped me, and I always say goodbye to Brian because he's my boss at the end of the night. And I seen Brian outside where the loading dock is, and I say goodnight to him, and he pulls me to the side. He's like, we got the biggest show ever coming up in August. Guess who I got? I'm like, who is it? Would you get CM Punk? What's going on? You get Jon Moxley? Because we were thinking about getting Jon Moxley, but Tony Khan didn't want to, lend out Jon Moxley in that moment. So I remember that Brian was getting the Young Bucks. Initially, he wanted the Bucks, but I don't know if they were able to do it at the time. He wanted to get the Bucks for a meet and greet. And the Bucks actually are the first ever House of Glory Tag Team Champions. So he tells me that he had a phone conversation with the Bucks, and he said, why don't you guys come and do the meet and greet? And then the Bucks were like, fuck the meet and greet. We'll do the meet and greet. Why don't we just wrestle for you guys? And we were like, who are they going to wrestle? Why don't we wrestle Private Party? Because Private Party, when I interviewed them at StarCast for Double or Nothing in Vegas, the one match that they told me they wanted was the Young Bucks. And now here it is happening right before our very eyes inside a House of Glory ring. My mind is blown at this point. And I had, again, bless the fucking God, bless the Lord that I got to call this thing. And again, I didn't even think it was going to happen. And I sat there I marked out. I didn't know what to do. Seeing this thing unfold, this was actually a rematch from what happened inside that House of Glory ring. It was great that night. I can't even begin to tell you how great this match was tonight. They blew everything that they did out of the water. Everything that they did in the House of Glory ring was great on its own right, and it was a great sentimental moment. What they did tonight exceeded everything that I thought was going to happen, and the outcome shocked the shit out of me. I did not expect the outcome that we got tonight. It was just a surreal moment. This is a moment where everybody is just proud of Private Party. I had Big Hodge texting me. Big Hodge actually FaceTimed me, and we were fucking so ecstatic that Private Party won. I had everybody texting me. Unbelievable. Fantastic. This is amazing. I know. Because tag team wrestling is something that we desperately need back. We need a resurgence of tag team wrestling. And there's no doubt in my mind, I said it from day one, that this tournament was going to deliver on that promise. And it started off in the most perfect way possible. Private Party beats the Young Bucks in a rematch from High Intensity 8. They get their win back. And it's unbelievable how we got the Young Bucks putting Private Party over. A lot of people, like I mentioned, think that the Bucks and Kenny and Cody, because they have these titles announced, they're executive vice presidents. They got these titles to their names now, that they're going to go over and they're going to give themselves all the riches, right? They're going to bury the roster. What good is AEW if you're going to go do that? This is a perfect example of the Bucks giving back. I am so proud of Private Party. I am even more proud of the Young Bucks for being unselfish in this moment. It was a beautiful thing to see. And Private Party tonight, they are a made tag team. They are a made tag team. Whether they win the tournament or not, you're going to look back at this tournament and say, they are the real winners because they beat the number one seed in this tournament. Which brings me to my next point. I love the fact that AEW is giving us seeds. Number 1 seed, number 8 seed. It gives it a real sports-like feel. You don't really see seeds in a tournament. It's like you're watching an NCAA basketball tournament. I love it. It just brings a real sports-like feel to it. I love the fact that they're making wins and losses matter. We all know that, and we're all happy that that is being brought back and being a major part of the analytics of this program. But the seeds in this tournament really took me by surprise because I didn't think they were going to go that far. It just gives it an overall sense of realism, which I love. We all know this tournament is big. You win this tournament, you're going to be the first ever AEW Tag Team Champions. I love the fact that SCU and Helico, Jack Evans, were in the crowd watching this thing because realistically, they want to scout their talent. They want to see what they're going up against. They want to get a up-close view of what's happening in the tournament. So I also love that as well. We had the Young Bucks come out. They made their entrance. Nothing special. They came out. They got an ovation like kings. Private Party came out. VIP rope and all. The bouncer let them through. Both Mark Quinn and Isaiah Cassidy fist bumped the security guard standing there. And we got started. This match started off with an armbar. Started off with Nick Jackson and Isaiah Cassidy in basic wrestling. Fundamental wrestling. And then there was super kick tease, super kick tease, super kick tease. Isaiah Cassidy knew that he didn't want to go to a super kick party. Maybe some other type of party, but not a super kick party. So, at that point, we had Private Party on the defensive. Young Bucks took control. Young Bucks are so good at what they do. So, after a little bit, Private Party made a comeback. Quinn tried to make the hot tag because he is the quintessential hot tag here. And he got yanked off the apron. Nick actually yanked him off the apron. Matt scored a near fall. And I love the fact that Tony Schiavone mentioned that the Young Bucks were very instrumental in picking Private Party out of House of Glory. That they were one of the few teams on their list at the top that they wanted to bring in to AEW, and they made that happen. Jim Ross actually compared the Young Bucks to counter Tony Schiavone. He said when he first saw the Young Bucks, and I put this in my notes, that they reminded him of the Rock and Roll Express. So, we had Cassidy selling a back injury because Quinn was taken out, and Cassidy was selling a back injury because earlier in the match, we had him powerbombed by Matt Jackson on the steel ramp, which looked brutal. So he was selling a back injury. Matt gave both Quinn and Cassidy overhead suplexes or Northern Light suplexes into a bridge, both for a double near fall. And Matt put Cassidy in a sharpshooter in the middle of the ring. Nick took care of Quinn at ringside. Cassidy lunged to the bottom rope to force a break. Fans were chanting, "Fight forever." This was a great moment, and the crowd went crazy. Mark Quinn, I can't forget about Mark Quinn either, because when he made his initial hot tag, he was tope con hero over the top rope. He was a corkscrew over the top rope, a suicide dive through the ropes. He was on fire. Crowd ate everything up. Everybody in the first, second, and third rows of this thing were all standing up. Everybody was on their feet watching this thing. They were so invested in this thing. It was a thing of beauty. It was a beautiful thing to see. So after the suplexes, after the sharpshooter, we had Nick taking care of Quinn at ringside. Cassidy lunged to the bottom rope. He got a rope break. Private Party made a comeback after a blind tag. They hit Gin and Juice. Quinn then landed a shooting star press on Matt Jackson, and it was almost a 3 count. He almost got it. I thought that was it. Everybody stood up and jumped up. Crowd is going crazy. Cassidy blocked a Meltzer driver setup, and then Cassidy rolled Matt up for a 3 count, and the Private Party get a clean victory over the Young Bucks. It was something that literally came out of nowhere. It wasn't, and the funny thing is, a lot of people are shocked at this. I was shocked. I think everybody was shocked, because everybody thought that the Young Bucks were at least going to put them over but advance to the second round. Pay close attention to how the Young Bucks lost this match. And it all goes back to that House of Glory match, because Private Party lost to the Meltzer driver. And being that the story from that match went on into this match, Private Party had the Meltzer driver scouted this time, and they countered the Meltzer driver, and they got a clean victory, not a fluke victory, a clean victory over the Young Bucks because of their knowledge of the Young Bucks moveset. So when you go back and watch how they won this match, it gave Private Party a major victory, but it also didn't make the Young Bucks look like losers in the end. They dominated most of the match. They got all their spots in, all their high offensive moves in. You've seen how well-oiled of a machine the Young Bucks are. Private Party got their shit in, and they countered the Bucks' finishing move to get the victory on a roll-up. You can't get any better than that. You got a clean victory over the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks look strong. Private Party advances to the next round. Everything about this was brilliant. Everything about this was perfect. You couldn't ask for a better match. You couldn't ask for a better start to the show. You couldn't ask for a better start to this tournament. This was awesome. And I urge you guys to go back and watch this thing if you can, because Private Party is going to be one of the best things in tag team wrestling. And I love the Street Profits. I really do. Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins are a great tag team. But when you look at what they did here, Private Party with the Young Bucks, and Private Party being very similar to the Street Profits, could you imagine the Street Profits in this thing with the Young Bucks? Could they do it better than Private Party? The answer is no. Here's a shot at Tequila. Go and do your thing in AEW. Private Party is going to end up being one of the best tag teams in all of wrestling. Loved every minute of it. Private Party advance. They are partying tonight in 14 minutes. They are in the second round. And now we can only hope that the Jurassic Express beats the Lucha Brothers. It's going to be awesome. Jericho came out. And you give this man a microphone, and it's going to be gold. He walked out with the AEW World title over his shoulder. Sammy Guevara, Santana Ortiz, Jake Hager, which Jim Ross tonight called him Jack, and then stopped and realized that he was about to make a fucking huge blunder on air. That was in the main event when Jake Hager got involved. Jack Hager Hagar is what Jericho said. He called him Hagar, like cigar. I don't know why he was saying that. I think he was just using that different way to say it as just a Jericho-ism, I'd say. But it was funny anyway. Anyway, Ross said Jericho might be the shrewdest dude in all of professional wrestling, and that is absolutely 100% factual. Schiavone said he reinvented himself and earned his longevity. Again, 100% factual statement. They put over Hager as an undefeated MMA superstar. Schiavone said, there is the AEW champion, and Jericho introduced himself as the champion of AEW. With a certain cockiness in his voice, Jericho said that they were the highest rated premiere in TNT history, and it's all because of me. Crowd started to chant, thank you, and then he shut them up. He told them to shut up and listen to him, because this is what heels do. When you start getting a babyface reaction, when you're the biggest heel in the company, you shut that shit down and you assert your dominance. That is what Chris Jericho did here tonight. Jake Hager stood there with his arms crossed, and it looks like, when we talked about it on the podcast on Tuesday, on Off the Script Elite, it looks like that Jake Hager is playing the body, he's playing the muscle, the bodyguard to Jericho and this new group of thugs in AEW. So fans chanted, thank you, Jericho. He told them to shut their mouths and sit down. Jericho said last week they showed that they are next, and they are now. That is a cheap shot at NXT, because NXT is next. There you go. I love the fact that Jericho is out there with a live microphone, no script whatsoever. Tony Khan told him, Jericho, here's the microphone, go out there and cut a promo for 10 minutes. And this is what he came up with. You gotta love it. You got to love it. They are next, and they are now. Jericho said that people want to know if they're going to keep working together and if they have a name. He said, yes. Look at Sammy Guevara. I hand chose him. He looks like a Spanish god. Look at how sexy he is. He touted his skills and said he is amazing. He is on my list. Then he talked about Santana and Ortiz. They're Street Fighter Alley brutes, and I like it. That's why they made my list. He then said, look at the giant behind me. Jake Hagar, he says. And he is a former world champion, but more importantly, he is the roughest, most terrifying, crazy MMA fighter in the world today. So clearly when Jericho announced Jake Hager, people were chanting, we the people. And this is where Jericho just laid a pipe bomb on WWE. He said, and stopped everybody from chanting we the people. He told them to stop chanting we the people because we the people sucks and it's dead and buried. It was a stupid idea from bad creative, and that's all gone now. Crowd gave this a standing ovation. Mic drop after that. If he ended the promo right there, that was it. That's all I needed to hear. This was laugh out loud hilarious. Hilarious. So, fans are chanting AEW. He said Hager is undefeated, and that's a shoot. He said he's the toughest dude in the entire wrestling business. He said he'll face anyone, and he's ready. Hager stood there without any expression on his face whatsoever and was the true muscle of Chris Jericho. He said that this is his inner circle. We are the inner circle, baby, he said. And we're taking control of AEW no matter who thinks they're in charge around here. We're in charge now. He called Cody a stupid son of a bitch. He said Cody was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. I don't like you, and I don't like your family. I don't like your father, Dusty Rhodes. I think he was a jerk. I don't like your brother, Dustin Rhodes. I'm going to kick his ass tonight. Most importantly, on November 9th at Full Gear, when you challenge the champion, I'm going to beat the ever-living shit out of you. He said then they're going to walk to the streets of Baltimore and have a little bit of the bubbly in celebration. We are the inner circle, and you are welcome. Folks, when you look at or if you are an up-and-coming superstar in pro wrestling, and you need to learn promo skills, you're going to look at Chris Jericho. I don't have any words for this outside of what I'm about to tell you right now. AEW gave you the idea, before they even aired live on TNT, that they were going to allow their talent to go out there with bullet points only and cut a wrestling promo. None of this scripted garbage, none of this sounding like a fucking robot off the manufacturing belt, none of, I am the women's champion, none of this shit, like Charlotte Flair. She sounds like a fucking android on life support. None of this shit. AEW told you that they were going to have promos cut with bullet points. They gave this man a light microphone with no fucking script, and he went out there and cut gold. This is what we're talking about. This is how you cut a wrestling promo. You go out there, you talk shit on your opponent, and it comes off genuine, organic, and natural. AEW gets it. That's how you cut a promo. That's what you do on a wrestling show. That's how you treat your talent in that type of situation. This was absolutely fucking brilliant in every sense of the word. Jericho is one of the greatest of all time. And I loved every bit of this promo. He shit on WWE. He got his guys over. Crowd gave him a babyface reaction, or started to give him a babyface reaction. He shut that shit down quicker than you could fucking blink. And Jericho is the AEW World Champion. Again, for people asking, why is Jericho the AEW World Champion? You're going to watch this, and you're going to know why in 10 minutes. That's all I got to say on that. Jimmy Havoc versus Darby Allin was up next. This was a #1 contenders match for the AEW World Championship. Love the fact that they played a video package of Jimmy Havoc, split screen, but a video package nonetheless about Jimmy Havoc and him going over his 15 years in this business. Says he's had to go through an unimaginable amount of pain and violence, but guess what? I like the pain. I like the violence. He said Darby will feel his pain tonight. He started punching himself with both fists, and he vowed that he'll become the #1 contender for the AEW World Championship. Now, why are we here? Why are we getting Jimmy Havoc against Darby Allin for the #1 contendership for the AEW Championship? Jimmy Havoc won a triple threat match at All Out. I do believe he won that match. The Cracker Barrel fucking triple threat hardcore match that they had. Darby Allin is over. Yes, we know he's over. Darby Allin, I do believe, was given this not because of his win-loss record, which he's went 20 minutes with Cody. I do believe he has another win on top of that somewhere. I forgot, but I do believe he has another win somewhere there. But he's over with the audience. I honestly think that these two were put together because they don't want to give you Pac yet. Because realistically, Pac is and should be the #1 contender for the AEW Championship. That match is too good to be giving away so soon in the middle of a build where we all know that Jericho's not going to lose the World Championship. Pac is being invested in. You're not going to put him in a situation where it's going to be predictable where he's going to lose a championship match. So why not give a rub to Jimmy Havoc or Darby Allin, who are both over with the audience? Darby Allin more so than Jimmy Havoc. So Darby Allin wins this thing in about 11 minutes. He's the #1 contender. And this is going to be a great showcase match. And Jericho is going to do what he can to put Darby Allin over. So that's what I make of all this. It's too soon. If you're thinking about Pac, which I know you are, it's too soon for Pac. Why put him in a situation when it's a predictable loss? Allin is going to lose. You don't want to put Pac in that situation because he is being invested in heavily at this time. And you don't want to squander that in any way possible. So, we seen clips after Jimmy Havoc doing, or of Allin, I should say, doing the coffin drop at Fyter Fest. Fucking dumbass move. I mean, it's just, I don't know who in their right mind would take this shit, but I guess he's one of those extreme skateboardists, right? Skateboard artists. Why not? Why not do a coffin drop as your finishing move? Fuck it. You know, it looks good. And it's his finishing move. Raw said he has talked to both guys, and they told him that they want to shed the image of just being hardcore guys who use weapons. I love it. I love it. Because every time we've seen these guys, it's been chairs, tables, kendo sticks, barbed wire, Cracker Barrel crates. I love the fact that they're out there trying to wrestle. So, we had Havoc in this thing. He was on the apron. I believe Havoc was biting Darby Allin's hand. Then he suplexed him out of the ring to ringside. Back in the ring, they started slapping the shit out of each other. Havoc stomped on Allin's hand and then twisted his fingers. Then he bit his fingers. So he got some revenge on Jimmy Havoc, who bit his fingers earlier in the match. Schiavone said Darby Allin doesn't mind the pain, obviously, and they went to commercial break. Havoc landed a discus elbow. Then we had Havoc giving Allin a Death Valley driver into the turnbuckle. He dead weight lifted Allin to give him a Tiger Driver 98 for a near fall. Allin surprised Havoc as he complained to the ref with a crucifix for a near fall. Havoc went right back to stomping Allin's face. Allin bit Havoc's hand, then gave him a flip-over stunner, and then went to the top rope for the coffin drop. He didn't nail all of it, but he got enough of it to get the victory here in 11 minutes. I feel that Darby Allin, especially on TNT Dynamite, needed just a little bit more in that match to prove to the audience watching at home that he deserves a championship match. I don't think they know who he is. We know who he is. We've known what he's done with Cody, and we know what he's done in the hardcore realm with Joey Janela and Jimmy Havoc. I think the crowd on TNT watching needed a little bit more of Darby Allin to really buy into him as challenging the AEW World Championship. The one thing that I did mention about analytics that I love with the seeds, they mentioned another stat here in this thing. Now, I don't know who it was. I think it was Excalibur or Jim Ross. They mentioned that 100% of the time that Darby Allin has used the coffin drop, it has led him to a victory. Now, it's going to be very interesting to see how they play into this. Is he going to use the coffin drop on Chris Jericho? Is he going to get to a point in the match next week for the world title where he uses the coffin drop? Because from what I see and how I gauge it, if they're telling you that he is 100% in winning matches with the coffin drop, then it should really be a statistic that gives you a very believable near fall. If he gets the coffin drop on Jericho, that could possibly solidify himself as winning the championship. Now, if he doesn't do the coffin drop, that's going to be another interesting aspect behind this. Is he going to even be able to pull off the coffin drop? Will that statistic play into the reason why Darby Allin loses? Because 100% of the time when he does the coffin drop, it leads him to victory. What if he doesn't do the coffin drop? That's a great reason for him to lose the match. He could bring Jericho to the brink of defeat, but if he doesn't get an attempt of the coffin drop, that could be the reason why he lost. Now, what if he hits the coffin drop and nails it and Jericho kicks out? That's another aspect of this statistic being brought to the audience's attention. It could be a reason that we can get a believable near fall. Jericho kicks out of it because he is that tough. He is the world champion. He knows what to do in those type of situations. And then Darby Allin, the next match, he'll be 66.6% with the coffin drop. It's a very interesting thing that I'm going to pay very close attention to because I wonder, and this is the first time that they mentioned it, how they're going to use that statistic going into a match like this and how they're going to use that for future reference. This is going to be very interesting to see, but Darby Allin wins here. And again, the reason why Allin and Jimmy Havoc are in this thing, because you can't put someone that they're investing in so heavily like Pac into this thing because it's predictable. I'm excited about the match. The funny thing is I'm excited about the match because I'm interested to see the clash of styles and what Jericho could do for Allin. And I'm interested in the statistic part of it that they did mention that when he uses the coffin drop, he's 100% in securing a victory. So it's going to be very interesting. The match might be predictable, but for some reason, they got me excited about this predictable match next week. So I can't wait to see what these two produce in Philadelphia. Bea Priestley and Sakura versus Rijo and Dr. Britt Baker. This one went very short, and in 9 minutes, Baker and Rijo win. And I assume that because Rijo just won the Women's Championship and Britt Baker is there. They teamed up before, so I like the fact that they mentioned this. I believe they teamed at Fight for the Fallen against Bea Priestley. And I don't know who it was. I don't know who else was in that match. But Hikaru Shida, I believe it was. But I love the fact that they're still building Britt Baker and Bea Priestley. Because that is a match that I could see them doing. And that could lead to us crowning a #1 contender for the Women's Championship. I like the fact that they're building this nice and slow. It's a slow build. We haven't seen them in a one-on-one match yet. I said that I would have rather seen Britt Baker and Bea Priestley fight over the Women's Championship, but they gave it to Rijo instead. And you got to praise AEW for what they did last week, because we were all thinking that Nyla Rose was going to win that. AEW was going to go to the political route and push their agenda about Nyla Rose and give her the championship, but they went with the smaller Rijo in that situation. Bea Priestley and Britt Baker are clearly the next in line for this championship, and I can't wait to see what those two women produce here. They got it on in this match, and Sakura hit a Vader bomb. There was a nice back and forth between Tony Schiavone and Jim Ross. Tony Schiavone asked Jim Ross, are they still calling it that? And then Jim Ross was like, well, you know, they wanted to name it the Leon White Bomb, but that didn't go over too well. And everybody stuck with the Vader bomb. And then Tony Schiavone was like laughing, and he's like, man, that's awesome. So a nice homage to Big Van Vader here on commentary. Schiavone said that and said that it was very cool. Baker eventually scored a tap-out win over Sakura. She did what was, it looked like a crossface almost, or a Rings of Saturn, I believe. And it was like a Rings of Saturn mixed in with a mandible claw from Britt Baker. She was examining Sakura's teeth tonight, Miss Britt Baker, DDM. So it was Britt Baker and Rijo winning in 9 minutes. And after the match, we had Bea Priestley and Britt Baker starting a post-match fight. We had the referee get involved in the middle of this thing. And I like the fact that they're still building these two women up. I'm very excited to see what they do in the ring together. Eventually, that could be a possible match at the next pay-per-view at Full Gear. So we'll see what happens. Shawn Spears. Shawn Spears with Tully Blanchard against Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley, 5 weeks out. He missed All Out. He missed the match with Omega. He is back. He looks great. And he came out. He didn't wear his jeans. He didn't wear his ripped jeans. He wore wrestling trunks. Now, you guys might have looked at him and thought that it looked weird. Moxley in wrestling shorts and elbow pads, knee pads. But he actually wrestled in Japan with this same outfit. He wrestled Juice Robinson. He actually won the IWGP United States Championship wearing this same outfit. So it's pretty good. I like him in this. It's very simple. It's very basic. It's Jon Moxley's attitude that's going to sell the entire shtick. So he is absolutely incredible at what he does. And this match with Shawn Spears was awesome. Everybody was into this big time. They showed snippets of Moxley breaking out of prison with the whole coming attraction video before he even got signed to AEW, before he even came out. Double or Nothing, that whole prison break video, they showed that for his vignette. One thing that I mentioned last week was the fact that they need to work on their sound. It was very noticeable here, and it was kind of noticeable all through the night. Same thing with Private Party, same thing with Britt Baker and Bea Priestley when they came out and made their ring introductions with their theme music. They have to raise the theme music in AEW. I think the theme music needs to be a little bit louder. I want to hear the theme music. I want to be immersed when watching it at home. So I think they need to work on that. That's one of those little details that they still need to get right. Get the theme music louder. I don't know if it's coming through weird on their end, but the crowd is overpowering the music, and I'd like it to be a little bit even out, because when someone's music hits and they come out, again, I want to be immersed in that. WWE does it perfectly. It's got a perfect balance of, now usually the crowds are non-existent because they just don't give a shit, and WWE crowds are not invested in the talent like AEW crowds are invested in their talent, but they got to raise the music. They got to make it louder. I want to be immersed in what I'm watching at home. Spears came out. He did his whole chairman shtick, and out came Tully Blanchard with him. So they went right after each other. Butting heads like bulls in the middle of the ring. Spears threw 2 punches. Mox was taking control here. Pac joined commentary here, and he was awesome. Always great hearing him. He was talking about how Allin and Havoc are being given chances at title matches before him, so I love the fact that they're bringing this awareness to everybody, because I'm sure everybody at home was asking themselves the same question, and Pac is agreeing with you. Why is Havoc and Allin getting a title match opportunity when I'm sitting here and I beat both Hangman and Kenny Omega? Seriously, what do I got to do? So I love that aspect, and I love that they're bringing that to everybody's attention. So Moxley was over big time here in Boston. Spears fired back with some chops and punches. Moxley was asking for more, as usual, because he's a sick fuck. And Spears fired back with some chops and punches, brushed them off, went right after Spears again. When Spears retreated to the ringside area to go and talk some strategy with Tully Blanchard, we had Mox attacks him from behind. Blanchard grabbed Mox from behind, but Mox turns around and backed away. Spears then attacked Mox from behind. Jim Ross was asking why the referee let that go when there was a blatant interference from Tully Blanchard. So there is another correction to what happened last week. Now, the Young Bucks said that the reason why Moxley and Omega did not cause the disqualification was because Omega was the illegal man, and it was at the referee's discretion. So they had to step in and give you the explanation that everybody was wondering at home. Why did the referee just let it go and ignore what was a blatant DQ? The referee seen Tully attack or get involved or hold. He didn't really throw a punch at this point, but he held Moxley to give Spears the advantage. Referee seen it, plain as day, and he let it go. And Jim Ross on commentary corrected the mistake from last week with that situation and said, well, why is the referee letting it go? And then Excalibur chimed in and said, well, this is a referee's discretion. Tully really didn't throw a punch. He did get involved, but this is a referee's discretion. And I don't think anybody in the arena, and the referee included, want to see this match end in a screwy finish or a fuck finish. So I'm glad that they made that a explanation during this match. So that was really a breath of fresh air. So Tully eventually got involved here, and he threw Moxley into the steel steps. So on the way back to the ring, Spears snapped Moxley's neck over the top rope. Tully, like I said, shoved Moxley into the steel steps. They showed Pac at ringside, who was then asked about his win-loss record worldwide. He said, in the last few years, he's only been pinned once. He said, in this day and age, no one compares to him. Said he wanted to know why he was relegated to the commentary booth with goons like these guys. Spears, back in the ring, gave Moxley a Death Valley driver into the ringside barricade. This was fucking brutal. He picked him up in a Death Valley driver position and in the corner of the barricade, right by ringside. In that corner, he threw Moxley, Death Valley driver, head landed on the concrete. It looked really brutal. Spears was in control after that. Mox came back with a dive through the ropes onto Spears. It still looks as bad as it was in the WWE, believe me. He then took it to Moxley in the corner, and we had a 10-minute time limit announcement made by Justin Roberts. Mox tried to come back. Tully tried to distract. He opened up Spears and scored a near fall. Moxley eventually hit the paradigm shift for the clean win, and Moxley won in 12 minutes. And that was pretty much it for Moxley. After the match, this was awesome. This was awesome. Kenny Omega walked out, and Moxley was in the ring. Spears had left with Tully. We had Moxley standing in the ring. Kenny Omega comes out. He's got a baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire, and he's got a broom, because he's the cleaner, wrapped in barbed wire. So Kenny was on the stage, and he was motioning to Moxley. Moxley stands there, and they're like two old-school gunslingers in the Westerns, and they're just standing there. All I was waiting for was a fucking, one of those little things to roll by. Those fucking whatever, you know? Bowls of hay, whatever the fuck they're called. To roll by, and they were standing there. It's late. It's late. I apologize if I don't know what the fuck that is. What is that? I don't even know what the fuck you call that thing. Someone on horseback. Maybe we get fucking Hangman Paige to fucking roam in on horseback during this goddamn thing. They're standing there, and Omega throws the baseball bat to Jon Moxley. He throws the baseball bat to Jon Moxley. And the crowd is chanting, holy shit, they didn't take a swing of any of these weapons at each other. And the crowd is chanting, holy shit. Pac, from the commentary table, gets up, takes a steel chair, runs at Omega, and blasts Omega in the back of the head with a steel chair. Moxley could have taken the bat, and he could have blasted Omega while he was down. But you know what? He dropped the bat down, and he walked right by Omega. Because why does he need to do anything to a down guy? A, he wants to do it himself. And B, I think Moxley proved this point last week when he DDT'd Omega right through the glass table. So this was awesome. Crowd was chanting, holy shit, and they didn't take one swing of their weapons. That's what I call fucking great. I loved it. Main event, guys, Sammy Guevara, Chris Jericho with Jake Hager versus Dustin Rhodes and Adam Hangman Page. We're going to get into this in just a little bit, but quickly, guys, before I do that, I got to quickly shout out one of my sponsors here, Audible. Make sure you guys check out Audible, audibletrial.com/offthescript. You guys are going to get 30 days free of Audible service and 1 free audiobook of your choice. All you have to do is use our unique link, go through the sign-up process, and you guys will be on your way to browsing Audible for 30 days. And as a thank you for signing up, they're going to give you 1 free audiobook of your choice. And you guys, this is the best part. You can cancel any time in that 30 days and still get to keep your audiobook for free. It's a great way to get something for free, and it's a great way to support the show. audibletrial.com/offthescript. Main event, Jericho, Sammy Guevara, Dustin Rhodes, Adam Hangman Page. This is your main event of AEW Dynamite on week number 2. Dustin and Jericho started things off. The two veterans starting things off here. Dustin gets the attack early on Jericho. He's with Jericho on the outside. He pulls Jericho's shirt over his face and starts punching him on the outside, hot and heavy here. He dumps Jericho then over the barricade on the outside. Sammy tries to get in there and get a sneak attack, but he eats a punch from Dustin Rhodes. Back in the ring, Paige tags in. He goes to work with some big, and I mean B-I-G, lariats on Sammy. Paige catches Guevara midway, fall-away slam, kip up, crossbody to the floor on Jericho. Guevara looks for a kick. He missed. He gets picked up off the mat. German suplex with a bridge for a 2 count by Paige. Dustin tags in. Dustin drops down and throws a big uppercut. Signature gold dust by Dustin Rhodes. Dustin and Paige double team on Sammy. Dustin just launches Guevara. Paige with a running shooting star press cover. Jericho kicks Paige in the face to break it up. Paige then with a power slam. He goes up tap. Jericho with a distraction. Sammy with a rising knee strike. He climbs up. He gets Paige on his shoulders, lifts and drops Paige chest first on the top turnbuckle. Jericho and Paige are in the ring now. This is a rematch from the pay-per-view. All Out. Jericho choking Paige, and he's choking him out on the second rope. Jericho charged in. Paige moves. Jericho crashes into the ropes, leg first. Sold the leg injury there, which is always nice to see. And he was able to tag out. Guevara runs in, takes down Dustin, stomps Paige, cover for a 2 count only. Paige tagged out, couldn't make it, but he needed to tag out. Big discus lariat sends Guevara down to the mat. My God. My God. The lariats that Adam Hangman Page delivered to Sammy Guevara, I still think his head is rolling somewhere in Boston. Somewhere in Boston. It might be rolling down the fucking Liberty Trail for all we know. My goodness. Unbelievable. So Guevara is down on the mat, and Dustin finally tags in, drops Guevara, lariat to Sammy as well. So not only did he take a lariat from Adam Hangman Page, he took a lariat from Dustin Rhodes as well. Punch to the face, inverted atomic drop. Jericho runs in, eats an inverted atomic drop as well. Dustin climbs up. He hits a crossbody on both Sammy and Jericho. Guevara runs at Dustin, ends up on the floor. Page with a crazy moonsault to the floor. He takes out Sammy. All of a sudden, we've seen Jake Hager, who was quiet the entire match. Hager runs over Paige. Jericho tags in. He eats a move for a 2 count. Dustin is looking for Shattered Dreams on Jericho. Spinning power slam to Guevara. Snap power slam like Randy Orton. Now we all know where Randy Orton got it from. Referee's checking on Guevara. This is what I did not like about this match. We had Jake Hager, who was quiet the entire time. He clotheslined Adam Hangman Page on the outside earlier. So he got involved. He ran over Paige with a clothesline. So Dustin is looking for Shattered Dreams, and he hits a move on Guevara. Referee is checking on Guevara, but Sammy is hanging on to the ref. He's hanging on to the ref at this point, distracting the referee. While the referee is distracted, Jake Hager is running into the ring. He gets into the ring, and he drops Dustin with a clothesline, I believe. And he looks over at Dustin Rhodes, who was just nailed with the move. And in the same time he's looking at Dustin, Jake Hager was just leaving the ring. So the referee, completely blind to the fact that Jake Hager just came in the ring and fucked this match up. So Jericho then hits the Judas effect And that was it, and the heels win. The Inner Circle get the victory again in week 2, and Jericho and Sammy Guevara win by pinfall. Post-match, all 3 guys attack Dustin. Paige is up. He's trying to help out, but the numbers, too much for Adam Hangman Page. Hager sends him out to the floor. Paige launches a chair at Hager. 2 are fighting back. Guevara and Jericho stomp away at Dustin. The lights go out. Now, I don't know who's going to show up. I thought it was yet another surprise for the elites, but it ended up being Cody Rhodes. Cody was greeted with a major reaction. Cody emerges from the darkness, crossroads on Guevara. Cody and Jericho are in the ring. They're going at it. Santana and Ortiz come out. They blindside Cody from behind. Jericho holds the title up. He's celebrating. Dustin's trying to help out. No good. Jericho goes to attack Cody with his belt. MJF runs out with a chair. He chases everybody away. Jericho holds Cody and offers up MJF to attack him. So he's offering. The tease is there. We see Jericho holding Cody up, and he's gloating MJF to hit his best friend in the entire world, with a steel chair. So MJF says no. He does no such thing. He goes right after Santana and Ortiz. Jericho bails, and MJF got a huge babyface reaction, which I don't think will last very long. So he's celebrating. He eats a code breaker from Jericho. Fuck you for not listening to me. He eats a code breaker. Young Bucks head out and go right after Santana and Ortiz. They fly out of the ring. They take the former LAX out. And in the ring, we got the Bucks. We got Dustin. We got Cody. Jericho throws the referee down. And down on the ramp, he's celebrating. And all of a sudden, we see Darby Allin come skateboarding down the ramp. And he drop kicks Jericho from behind. He takes the skateboard, he picks it up, and he slams it across Jericho's back. And he retreats, does Jericho. Jericho gets on the microphone and says, "You stupid idiots, don't you know who you're dealing with?" Then he tells Darby next week, "It's your funeral, bitch." And that's the way AEW goes off the air. I thought this was a very storyline-centric show. We're starting to see the beginning phases of storylines here for AEW. I love it. The only things I could say that are a negative for a show that I mostly was very positive about. They got to raise the music, and I don't like the fact that the referee blatantly seen what was going on in that main event and pretended to play dumb. But I do like the fact that they are covering, and they are covering their bases about, interference and why referees are being lenient and why there's no DQ. Overall, I thought this was a great show. It continued storylines. It was consistent. We are excited about next week, which is always a great thing to feel after a wrestling show. The tag team tournament is starting, and it started off perfect in the most perfect way possible with the Young Bucks and the Private Party. And we got more to come next week. Still no Jurassic Express, which I hope we get in one of these next couple of weeks. Whether it's a 6-man tag with Marco Stunt, or we get a tournament match next week with them and the Lucha Brothers, I'm not sure what's going to happen, but they are the most over tag team in the company, so, having them sit out week 1, week 2, possibly week 3 is a little ridiculous. I think they need to be on the show. But overall, I love the fact that we're getting storyline continuity. We're getting build. We're building towards Full Gear. We got Full Gear kind of materializing right before our very eyes. We got the Young Bucks versus Santana and Ortiz. That's definitely going to be a match. We got Moxley versus Omega. We got Cody versus Jericho. More than likely, we're getting Adam Hangman Page versus Jake Hager. So that's a possible match. We're getting a possible tag team title match, whatever that might be. I don't know how they decided tag team #1 contender, but we'll see what happens. But I'm assuming we are getting a tag team title match. The women's championship is probably going to be on the line. We got Britt Baker and Rijo next week for the women's title. So we don't know what's going to happen with that and how they're going to crown a #1 contender. It may very well be Bea Priestley at that point. We don't know. We'll wait and see. We have Pac. We don't know what he's going to be doing at the show. For all we know, being that he sat in and talked about Darby Allin and Jimmy Havoc, he could go one-on-one with Darby Allin at the pay-per-view and deliver a great match in front of the Baltimore crowd of Full Gear. So Full Gear is really setting itself up to be a very, very good show. And I love the fact that we're getting this build and the storylines on TV, and it's getting us excited for week 3. Consistency. That's all we ask for. So if they come out swinging next week and deliver a great show just like they did in week 1 and week 2, AEW is off to a winning streak. And everybody's going to pay attention to the ratings next week. And I honestly think neither NXT or AEW are going to be at that same point. NXT might be around that same point, might be a little higher. AEW is not going to draw a 1.4. I would be very shocked if they get a 1.4 or higher tomorrow when the ratings come in. Either way, we're getting great wrestling on Wednesday night. We're getting consistent wrestling on Wednesday night. We're getting wrestling that makes sense. We're getting wrestling that doesn't treat us like a bunch of blithering idiots. And I think it's great. And I can't wait to see what AEW does next. I'm fully invested in this tag team title tournament. After tonight, I can't wait to see what unfolds throughout the rest of the tournament. Thank you guys so very much, man. I'm getting out of here, and I will see you all right back here tomorrow morning. Remember, NXT review is on Thursday morning. Make sure you guys tune in tomorrow to find out what happened on NXT and hear my full thoughts on NXT from Full Sail University. We got Drew Gulak and Leo Rush for the Cruiserweight Championship, and we got Kushida versus Walter for the NXT UK Championship. So I'll see you guys then. Thank you so much. Hit that thumbs up and check out all the other videos that you might have missed this week on the channel alone. And I will see you guys tomorrow morning for NXT right here on Off the Script. See you then.